Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am going to be offering you a fun chair yoga class that is focused a lot on our legs and getting some strength there as well as stretching. So I hope you enjoy and let's get to it. Okay, so we'll get started. If you can just sit in your chair comfortably. Ideally, you are not leaning back in the chair, but you are using your core muscles to help support you. And you are going to look down at your toes, at your feet, and I want you to notice if one foot is further in front of the other foot. So if you can pretend that there's like this imaginary line going across your toes, you want to make sure that the toes are all touching that line at the same spot. So just take a moment to notice that. And I like to start all of our classes in seated mountain pose. So seated Tadasana. And that's just a fancy way of saying that you are engaging all the muscles and your bones are stacked in the appropriate way for how you should be sitting in alignment, right? So I want you to press your heels into the floor. And you're going to press them pretty hard, and you should start to feel the tops of your thighs engage. They'll start to grip a little bit. And keep pressing the heels. You're going to lift your toes, spread the toes really wide, and then let the toes come back down. Okay. And a lot of times when we do that, the heels lose some of that pressing down. So you're going to keep pressing those down. And then you're going to notice what your default is. Okay. So what I mean by default is we are typically one of two people. We are either somebody who typically leans forward when we sit. That usually translates also to when we stand. Or we're typically somebody who kind of leans back, which makes our chest close and our shoulders hunch forward. So, what is your default? Just noticing that forward, backwards, where are you? And then you're going to just start to rock on the sits bones. You're rocking a little bit forward, you're rocking a little bit back, kind of like a rounding and an arching of your low back here. And what you're looking for is neutral. Okay, so where is kind of the center of the sits bones where you're not leaning forward, but you're also not leaning back? Okay, you're going to find that center and then you're going to stay right there. Okay, and press the heels down again because a lot of times we lose that when we move. And then you're just going to bring some awareness to the front of the spine. Okay, think about the front of the spine from the tailbone, right, all the way up to the neck. I want you to feel like you're lifting up through the front of the spine. The heels are pressing, you're on the center of the sits bones, front of the spine is lifted, and you're just going to let the shoulders come back and down. Okay, so another thing that we notice a lot is we typically have our chin forward and up a little bit. So you're going to bring your chin down and back a little bit. So you feel a little bit of length through the back of the neck here. And then you're just going to close your eyes. And sometimes when we close the eyes, we can feel a little bit better our alignment, right? Are you still pressing through those heels? Can you still feel the thighs gripping? Did you go to your default or are you neutral in the pelvis? Is the front of the spine still lifted? Are the shoulders still rolling back? Some things to observe. And then you're going to take 3 sighs. So 3 times you're just going to breathe in through the nose and you're going to open the mouth and sigh through the mouth. And remember, you're at home, so you can sigh as loud as you want. You can really let go. And take your time with these sighs, certainly, but after you finish those 3 sighs, you're going to let the breath come just in and out through your nose. Maybe you're noticing for the first time today the fact that you're breathing. Maybe observing the coolness of the air as it's coming into the nose and the warmth of the air as it's exiting the nose. And then without having any type of expectation on where your breath should be flowing, I just want you to notice what part of your torso is moving the most when you breathe in and out. So if you were to break the torso into three parts, you're going to think of the lower ribs, the middle ribs, the upper ribs, chest area. What part is moving the most? And and also notice what part is moving the least. And then before we open our eyes here in a moment, start getting some movement going. Just observe to yourself, did you start to go back into your default? Right? Once again, are those heels pressing? Are you on the center of the sits bones? The front of the spine lifting and the shoulders still rolled back. And then when you're ready, you're going to let the eyes start to flutter back open. Good. So we're going to start out in a seated child's pose. So with seated child's pose, you do want your back to round. Okay. So it can look like a few different ways. You can round your back and let your forearms rest on your thighs and let your head drop. If it's comfortable for you to put your torso on your thighs, right, you can do so and let your hands drop towards the floor and also let the head drop. Anytime we're in a forward fold, especially with our head heavy, I recommend taking some deep breaths. You can sigh it out if you want to, or you can just really focus on exhaling deeply through the nose. Both are fine. So if you came into that option where your torso was on your thighs, I want everybody to come back so that your forearms are on your thighs. And you're just going to bring your feet, wiggle your feet and your knees out a little bit, right? So a little wider than hip distance. And then you're going to take both of your arms and place them on your right thigh. And you're going to let your head drop again. And to get this side body stretch, focus on your left hip, pulling back and down. And then you're going to feel this increased stretch on that left side body. And again, just taking a couple deep breaths here. Awesome. You're going to come back to center, and then you're just going to go to the other side. Okay, so letting both hands rest on the left thigh now, letting the head drop, but focusing on the right hip. So the right hip now is going back and down. It's a subtle movement, it's a small movement, but it makes a big difference in the stretch. And then now just taking a few deep breaths in and out, nice and slow. Great. Come all the way back to center. Roll yourself all the way back up to sit. Bring the feet back so that they're hip distance apart. And we'll come right into our cat cows. So cat cows um, typically teach every single class. It's a really great way to stretch the back of your body and the front of your body. So you're going to start exhaling. Tailbone's going to come forward. You're going to round your low back, your middle back, round your upper back. Let your head drop. And then you're going to inhale. You're going to lift your tailbone, arch the low back, the middle back, the upper back. Roll the shoulders back. Let the head lift. And you just go with your breath at your own pace. Okay. So, one thing to note is at the top of that inhale, if it doesn't feel comfortable for you to look up towards the ceiling to lift your head, you can modify by just looking straight ahead instead of looking up towards the ceiling. Sometimes that doesn't feel good on people's necks. Let's do one more full breath, an inhale and an exhale. And after that full breath, you're just coming back to that neutral, right? That seated mountain pose. And we're going to take barrel rolls. So, barrel rolls, I like you to think of making a circle with your waist, right? Some people, it translates better if I say making a circle with your belly button. Okay. But it's not the shoulders that are initiating this circle. So, you're just going to start to try to make a circle, whatever direction you want to go, because we'll go both directions. And the waist, the belly button, as I like to say, is in the driver's seat. And the shoulders come along for the ride. They're not driving. So the next time your circle comes to the front, you're just going to reverse it. Okay, so you're going to go the other direction. All right, now bring it back to neutral, and then we're going to do circles again, but this time it is more so the shoulders that are in the driver's seat. They're more in charge, and the lower part of the torso, that part comes along for the ride. So with this one, I like to bring my feet apart just a little bit more, and then you're going to make big circles with the upper body. Get a nice little stretch in your low back here. Lovely. And it's also giving us a little preparation for the next thing we're going to do right after this. Good. And then you're going to reverse it, other direction. Yeah, about one more circle here. And then you come back to center. Bring the feet back a little hip distance apart. And then we're going to come into knee hugs. So I will say to modify these, we'll start with the right foot. You might come to your tippy toes. Okay, that might be your knee hug, right? If you feel like you want to go a little further, you can take your fingertips underneath your thigh, keep your chest up, keep your shoulders back. So what I see a lot of times is people starting to do this number, right? I want you to stay nice and lifted. And then maybe bring the knee in towards the chest. Okay, and if you're doing that, you want to flex your foot. So the toes are no longer pointing down, but the foot is flexed. Shoulders are back. Maybe you want to go a little bit further. The flexibility is there, and you clasp around your shin, and then you bring that knee even further in towards the chest. But being really mindful to keep front of the spine lifted. Just breathing. Just going to hold this for a moment. Good. So when we come out of this in just a second, don't let the leg just fly down. Okay, have a little control with it. So go ahead and release whatever grip you have. Slowly put that leg down. We're going to go to the other side. So you might start toes down. And this might be enough for you, so you're going to stay here. Otherwise, grab behind the thigh, flex the foot, and start to bring the knee up. And then, of course, if you want to go a little bit further, you can grab around the shin and then bring the knee in just a little bit more. But the foot stays flexed. That's actually engages the muscles around the knee, the lower portion, to keep your knee really safe. Good. And then again, making sure it comes down with a little bit of control. Right, slowly placing that foot back down. So we're going to do that one more time. We're going to add in some ankle rolls this time. So come into whatever position was good for you last time. And then you're just going to start to roll out the ankle. Really focusing on keeping the knee still and the leg still, but just moving the ankle and the toes. Good. Reverse it, other direction. And then let it come back down. And then coming to the other side, last time. And so if your toes are on the floor, if that's where you went, right, you're rolling your ankle out like so. Otherwise, bring the knee in, keep the shoulders back, and then just start to roll out that ankle. And then reverse it, other direction. Awesome. So bring it back down. All right, we're gonna do some leg extensions. It's a strengthener for the quadriceps, the tops of the thighs. If this is where you were, okay, then your modification for these leg extensions, you're basically straightening your leg, is you'll bring your foot out a little bit further. You'll flex your foot and you'll just start to lift and lower and lift and lower. If you brought your leg off or foot off of the floor, you're going to grab behind the thigh. Like, don't do the shin, but grab behind the thigh, flex the foot, and then you're going to straighten and bend. Okay. So you do what feels better for your body. Remember that those of you who have been taking my classes for a really long time know that one of my favorite sayings is that we are bilateral creatures, but we are not symmetrical. So you might find that you do something completely different on this side than what you do on the other side, and that's normal and it's okay. Good. One more and two more. And release. And then we'll go to the other side, right? So you determining whether you want to do this action, right? Or if you're grabbing behind your thigh, keeping those shoulders back, flex the foot, and then you straighten and you release. So I will say if your foot is up in the air the whole time here, the more you press through your heel, the more engagement you're typically going to feel in your quadricep, the top of the thigh. And we're doing this to bring a little bit of strength. I know a lot of you like to take walks. We just talked to someone about that. And strong quadriceps are what help you stay really balanced when you're walking. In my yoga therapy training, we used to call those muscles the muscles of independence. Good. One more. And release that down. All right. So come back to your seated mountain pose, not your default, right? I've noticed immediately I'm in my default. I'm someone who leans forward a lot. So I need to bring myself back into my neutral. You're going to take your right foot out to the side a little bit. You're going to, again, keep your foot flexed. And I just want you to lift it up and over and then up and over again. Okay. So at first, it might not seem like a lot, but after you do it for several times, you'll start to feel we're working on your hip flexor right now, which is a little bit above your quadricep here, and it helps bring your leg up. So it's like you're stepping over a block or a ball and just kind of going back and forth. And if you really focus on keeping your chest lifted, then you'll start to feel a little bit of engagement, more of a secondary engagement here on the side of the abdomen. And if the leg starts to get tired, just make your block a little shorter. Good. Let's do one more on the way out and then let that be. We'll stretch that out when we stand up here in a minute. So we're going to go the other side. So you're going to take your left foot out a little bit. Keep your foot flexed, super important. And you're just going to lift it up and then bring it back. So you're just stepping over that block. And if you want it to be a little less challenging, your block is shorter. You want it to be a little more challenging, your block is higher. Be mindful that you're not moving to your default. Mindful that the front of the chest stays lifted, the front of the spine stays lifted. And again, it doesn't feel like a whole lot when you do those first one or two, but once you get to 5, 6, 7, you'll start to feel that engagement, that strength coming in. All right, one more going in and one more going out. Awesome. All righty, so let's start on the right side. So keep your left leg kind of in line with your hip, and you're going to bring your right leg out. Okay, so for those of you who maybe have had hip surgery or the hip is really tight, thigh might be tight, right? It doesn't have to go out super far, but for those of you that are able to, right, let's scoot that leg as far out to the side as you can, and then you're going to bend your right arm. And then we're going to do this kind of dynamically. I call this a dynamic half goddess pose. We'll do goddess pose when we stand up in a minute. So you're going to exhale, you're going to lift your foot, bring it to neutral in front, also bring the arm with it. You're going to inhale and you're going to open it back out. Okay. You don't have to lift that knee very high, right? Think of your block being really short right now. It's just being able to bring it in and out. So working on a little bit of the hip mobility, little strength, the outer hip here. So we do two more. 1 and 2. And then you release that down. And of course, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So don't be alarmed if this hip goes out further than the other side or does not go out as far as the other side. Just go to where you can, where it feels good today. And then same. You're going to exhale, bring it in. You're going to inhale, take it out. And just move in with your breath. Remember that block that your foot is going over. It's short. Doesn't have to be a high block. The movement's a lot bigger than what we were doing a moment ago. Let's do one more. So coming out one more time and in one more time. Beautiful. Let the hands come down to the lap. All right, so I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to do it very fast. but then we're going to do it together, but your head is down for part of it. So I want to demonstrate it first. So these are seated sun salutations. Really quickly, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to inhale, reach the arms. You're going to exhale, come into a forward fold, let the head drop. You're going to inhale, put your hands on your legs, look forward with a nice flat neutral spine. You're going to exhale, fold again, let the head drop. You're going to inhale, rise and shine, and exhale, take it to the heart. All right, so let's do that together. Take your arms down by your sides. As you inhale, reach up high. As you exhale, come into a forward fold. Let your head drop. On an inhalation, place your hands on your legs. Kind of look forward with a neutral spine. As you exhale, forward fold again. And then inhale, rise and shine all the way up. And exhale, take it back to your heart. All right, again, inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. Inhale, look forward with a flat neutral spine. Good. Exhale, fold, drop the head. Inhale, rise and shine, arms above the head. And exhale, take it to the heart. Go and do two more. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold, drop the head. Inhale, flat back, neutral spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise and shine. Exhale to the heart. Awesome. One more. Inhale, reach. And exhale, fold. Drop the head. Inhale, flat back, neutral spine. Good. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise and shine. And exhale, bring it back to the heart. Awesome. All righty. So I want you to bring your feet wide again. So just as wide as they go. Okay. You can bring them back like this. That's great. And we're just going to get a little side body stretch in. So the right forearm's going to drop onto your right thigh here. Lots of options for this left hand. So maybe you have your hand on your hip and you're focusing on pulling your top shoulder back, pulling these left ribs back. Okay. If that's already happening, you can reach the arm out to the side, reach the fingertips. Maybe you lift your arms up towards the ceiling. Maybe your palm turns and then the arm reaches up over the head. Okay, but the idea is that you're not leaning forward, that top part of the body, but you're pulling it back and reaching through the fingertips, regardless of where your hand is. Beautiful. Come all the way back up. We're going to switch sides, of course. So a left forearm on the left thigh. Right hand might be on the hip. Roll the shoulder back. Maybe you reach out. Maybe you reach up. Or maybe the palm turns towards the floor and the hand comes over the head. Okay, but again, just reminder, focusing on not letting that shoulder drop forward, but instead pulling that shoulder back. Good. And then coming all the way back up. So walk those feet back in together. You've probably noticed I've had you bring your feet out and in and out and in a bunch of times, and that's just to help open those hips up. And we're going to come all the way up to stand and do some standing sun salutations. So you're going to stand up and you are going to place your chair so that the seat of the chair is facing you. Okay. Anytime we transition, I always usually like to give, 30 seconds or so for you to grab some water. So we are standing. If you want to grab a sip of water, grab a sip of water. It's always good to hydrate. All right. After you've gotten your water, and we'll just kind of go through this really quick. I want you to notice if you have that imaginary line going across the toes, just like when we were seated, is one foot further in front of the other foot. Okay, go ahead and fix that. And then notice your default. So you'll notice if you are someone who leans forward when you're sitting, a lot of times you're leaning forward when you're standing and your knees will lock. Okay, that's my scenario. If you're someone who leans back and you're seated, that's a new word, seated, right? Then you're going to be somebody who's typically has their weight more in the back of their feet, but you're hunched over. So I want you to find where that neutral is, just like we were doing with our sits bones. Press the feet down, lift up to the front of the spine. And then now we're going to do some standing sun salutations. So we'll do them together. The first one's pretty slow. You're going to inhale, reach the arms up. You're going to exhale, forward fold, place your hands in the seat of the chair. Bend your right knee. Okay, option one is take your left hand to your hip and twist open. Option two is to lift the left arm up towards the ceiling, right? Still coming into that twist. Good. Come all the way back to center. And then you do it on the other side. So the left knee is going to bend. Option one, take your right hand to your hip, twist. Option two, lift the right arm towards the ceiling and twist. Good. Then you bring it all the way back to center. Then we're going to walk ourselves back to downward facing dog now. So your hands stay in the seat of the chair and you're just going to walk your feet back. So ideally your hips and your knees and your ankles are all in one straight line. And then you let your head drop if that's comfortable. Good. Go ahead and bring your right foot forward, warrior one. So the right foot's going to come forward. You're going to bend your right knee. And then you need to kick your left toes out a little bit because you want your heel all the way on the floor, that back leg. And then again, lots of options here. So your hands might stay on the seat of the chair if you want a little more challenge. Maybe your hands come to the back of the chair. If you want a little more challenge, maybe your hands come to your hips. Okay, maybe they can come out to the side. I would think warrior one is the one that has the most amount of options for the arms, or the arms can come all the way up. Okay, you do what feels best for you, but check out your knee. Okay, on the right leg, you should be able to see your right big toe. If you can't see your right big toe, that usually means your knee is tracking in too much and cause a lot of strain. So you want to make sure your knee's pointing to that second and the third toe, and you're pushing back a lot through this left leg. Really push it back. Push the heel down, push that left thigh back. And then you're going to take your hands down, come back to downward facing dog. Right foot comes back. Just a little transition. And then we're going to do warrior one on the left side. So the left foot's going to come forward. Bend the left knee. Kick the right toes out a little bit. Make sure your heel is on the floor and then find the hand position you want. So chair seat, back of chair, hips out to the side or up in the air. And then you're going to check out your knee position. Okay. You should be able to see your left big toe. Super important. And then push back a lot through the right leg. So my right thigh is pushing back. My right heel is pushing back and down. And that helps take a little bit of pressure off your front leg. Right, so you don't get so tired there. Awesome. Go ahead and take your hands down to the seat of the chair and you come back to your forward fold. So the right foot comes forward, left foot's going to step back a bit. And you can stay in your forward fold here. If you would like a little more challenge, then you're going to come to chair pose. So chair pose, you're going to lift your toes up, put your weight in your heels, and then you're going to bend your knees, drop your hips, and then maybe you lift your arms straight out in front of you. Chair pose, like you're sitting back in an imaginary chair. Again, make sure you can see all your toes, knee safety. And then whether you're in forward fold or in chair, inhale, rise and shine. Bring it all the way back up. And then exhale, take it to the heart. Okay, so we're going to do that again a little faster. Inhale, reach. Exhale, forward fold, hands in the chair. Bend your right knee, twist to the left, hand on the hip or hand in the air, up to you. Good. Bring it back to center. Switch sides. Bend the left knee. Twist to the right. Hand on the hip or in the air. Beautiful. Bring it back to center and walk it on back. Downward facing dog. And you're going to bring your right foot forward. Warrior one. Bend the right knee. Kick the left toes out. If the last warrior one was easy, then you might scoot your left foot back a little bit so there's more distance between the front foot and the back foot. And then find your hand position. So if you did scoot your left leg back a little bit, then that gives you the opportunity to bend a little deeper into your front knee. But again, you want to be able to make sure you can see your right big toe. Push back through the left leg here. Beautiful. Take the hands to the seat of the chair and come into your downward facing dog. Just a transition pose. And then we're going to do warrior one, left side. So left leg's popping forward. You want to bring that right foot back, scoot it back a little bit. You can. Okay, left knee's going to bend. Make sure you can see your left big toe. You did scoot your right foot back further this time, then again, maybe you bend a little deeper into the left leg. And then find the hand position you want to be in. Maybe the arms are getting tired and you choose something different this time. Right? That's okay. So really push back through your right leg, push your heel down. Take some deep breaths. Awesome. Take the hands, seat of the chair, come into your forward fold. So right foot hops forward, left foot back a bit. You can stay in forward fold. This will be the last sun salutation today. So last chance for chair pose. If you want to take it, go ahead and lift your toes, bring your weight back to your heels, bend the knees, drop the hips. Maybe you reach your arms forward. All right, so again, check it out. Make sure you can see your toes. If you can't see your toes, that means your weight is a little too far forward and you want to bring your weight back. Awesome. Inhale, rise and shine. Exhale, take it to the heart. Very nice. So come behind your chair. Whether that means you move your body or you move your chair, it doesn't matter. You're going to come into goddess pose. So you have the chair for support. If you choose not to use that, then you can do the arm portion. If you're using the chair for support, you're just going to do the leg portion. Okay. So you can bring your feet pretty wide. Right. And then I want you to turn your toes out. Right. So if you look at my toes are not facing forward, but I have them turned out. Pretty good degree. I mean, they're not all the way out. About a 45-degree angle. I think that's what my Iyengar books say. All right, so you're going to bend your knees. So maybe you bend just a little bit. You think this is fine. I'm just going to stay here. Right? Maybe you bend a little deeper. So one thing to note is the more you bend the knees, the further down you go. You have to be really mindful that you're pulling the knees back. So you're engaging your glutes and your outer thighs to pull the knees back. Because you want to be able to see your big toes on both sides, right? So you might need to scoot your feet out a little bit if you start to drop a little further down, but you've got the support of your chair to hold on to. And if you don't want to use the support of the chair, if you feel the strength is there today, the balance, you might lift your arms up. And you're going to breathe. Think of the weight being on the outside edge of your feet, like the pinky toe side. We're not here forever, I promise. Impermanence. Good. If your hands are up, release the hands, grab the chair, straighten the legs, and then just heel toe the feet back in. Very nice. All right, flip the chair around or go to the other side of the chair if it's hard to move your chair around. And then you're going to bring your feet wide again. So this time your toes are pointing forward. We'll see that kind of the outer edges of my feet are aligned with the outer edges of my mat. And we're going to come into a forward fold here. Right, so my hands can come to the seat of the chair. Um, and I will say that when your legs are really wide like this, you can typically go a little further down in a forward fold than you can if your feet and legs are closer together. So you might find that you can come to your shin or to your forearms. And depending on how you're feeling today, you might find that maybe your hands can come down onto the legs of the chair, or maybe you can move the chair a little bit and your hands can come to the floor. And you're just breathing deep, slow breaths. Great. So wherever your hands are, just keep them there. You're going to bend your knees a little bit here. And then you're going to press your feet a lot into the floor and then bring yourself all the way back up to stand. Perfect. And then start to bring the feet back together. Awesome. So let's do one balance pose and then we'll get you into some relaxation. So again, you have the chair with you. If you'd like to use that for support, certainly you can. We're going to do tree pose. It's a common one in class. So if I'm standing on my right leg, that means that's the leg that's the closest to the chair. I'll hold on to my chair, and then my left leg can be in a couple different positions. So I might be what I call kickstand. My toes are down, my heels above my ankle. You might come to your calf. You might come to your inner thigh. Okay. And then your left hand will come to your chest. Now, this is one of the times I'm going to tell you don't look at the screen because you want to look at something that's not moving. And I know I'm moving and other people on the screen are moving. So look at something that's not moving. Keep your gaze on that spot. It's called your drishti. Okay, maybe you take your right hand to meet the left. Maybe you reach the arms into the air. And then you slowly come out of it the same way that you came into it, like slow, controlled, all that jam. All right. And then we will switch sides. So sitting on the other side of the chair. The reason I always want your standing leg to be the one that is next to the chair is because if the knee that bends out to the side is next to the chair gets in the way. So, in case you're ever practicing without class. All right, so kickstand, calf, inner thigh. Find your drishti, right hand to the heart. Now, I will note that one side is always a lot easier to balance on than the other side, always. So you might find this side to be easier. You might find this side to be more challenging. Just give yourself grace. Know that that's normal. Maybe you come to the fingertips on the chair. Maybe the hands come to heart. Maybe you reach the arms up. Again, you breathe and you just look at that thing that's not moving. Got a butterfly going in my drishti, just flittering around. So nature will always give you distraction. Stay focused. And then you slowly come out of it the same way that you came in, with control. Very nice. All right, so I'm going to sit down. in my chair, but I want to give you the opportunity to go somewhere that's comfortable. Right? Grab some water if you want to take a sip of water. Please do that. Right now is your chance to go somewhere that you can relax completely. Completely. I don't want you to have to hold yourself up when you're sitting. I don't want you to think about having to hold your head up. Okay, none of that. Just get in a lazy boy, lay on the floor, um, lay on the couch, go to bed, cover up with some blankets, right? Whatever feels like a place where you can just really relax. Go there. Of course, I give you time to get there. Right. Once you get there, if you're someone who gets cold when you relax, right? I encourage you to cover up with a blanket, turn your fan off. If you are someone who finds that you are often warm, then turn a fan on and don't cover under a blanket. Once you get to your space, get comfortable, you're going to let your eyes close. Sometimes when we first start to settle down, um, we find that taking those sighs, those cleansing breaths, can be really beneficial. So if you want to take a few cleansing breaths right now, like we did in the beginning of the class, then you can do that. But eventually, I want everybody to start to breathe in and out through their nose. Again, maybe just observing the fact that you're breathing, observing how there's a difference in temperature of the air as it's going into the nose and as it's coming out of the nose, noticing that difference. Maybe noticing the sensation of your clothing touching your skin. And then also the difference of the sensation where you do not have clothing touching your skin. Maybe the temperature is different, just like with the breath. And so at the beginning of the practice today, I asked you just to become aware of the parts of the torso that are moving the most and moving the least when you breathe. Just take another quick assessment of that. We've been working on Durga Pranayama. So all that is a complete three-part breath. We're going to do that again today. And so ideally, when we're taking a full deep breath, we're inhaling into the lower ribs first, and then the middle ribs, and then the upper ribs. And then we pause. And then we're exhaling from the upper ribs through the middle ribs, through the lower ribs. Pause. Okay. For the majority of us, adults especially, we will find that one of those three areas, at least one of them, is very restricted to the breath. You might find that your chest just flows every time you breathe in and out, but that the abdomen stays still. Or you might find that you can breathe into the lower ribs and it goes straight up into the chest, but the middle of the ribs stays still. Whatever it is for you, everybody's different. So today, you're going to start to just slow down the breath. See if you can allow it, both the inhalation to deepen and also the exhalation to deepen. And you're just going to follow it. Follow that flow with your awareness so that there's intention behind your breathing. So that when you inhale, you're intentionally pulling it down towards the lower portion. And then you're intentionally allowing that inhalation to rise up. You're going to pause. And then with your intention, your awareness, you're going to try to exhale from the top towards the bottom. You might pause again, and then you're just going to repeat that. So, just because we're putting intention into it doesn't necessarily mean that the breath is easily automatically just now going to flow into all three areas because our awareness is bringing it there, right? There's still the physical constrictions that we have to work through. So as you're inhaling and you're focusing on maybe sending the breath, not forcing the breath, but sending the breath to the space that's not getting a lot of movement and a lot of action. Right? So maybe trying to bring some breath there when you breathe in. It's going to eventually go into the places that are open anyway. And then when you're breathing out, just trying to allow that space that's tight, that's not moving, allow that space to release. Let it relax. And, you're just going to do that over and over and over. And for most of us, we're going to notice that, our mind is going to move away from the breath. We're going to start thinking, we're going to start planning, we're going to start doing something with our mind other than the practice. Um, and you just become aware of that. And you're like, oh, I'm thinking. Okay, let me go back to my breath. Don't beat yourself up about it because it's the natural part of the process of training your mind, training your neurological system to stay focused on the breath. And it takes time, it takes practice. So you treat that distraction as an opportunity to enhance the practice of focus. And there's not a lot of steps. And just because there's not a lot of steps and it's, simple, because there's not all this instruction that I have to give to you, it's not necessarily simple, right? You're working on opening places in your body that have been closed for who knows how long. So again, there's that inhalation with the intention of sending it to the space that isn't moving a lot. And then on that exhalation, it's letting that space where you're trying to send that breath to relax so that it can feel more open and become more open because the muscles are no longer as tight as they were on the breath before it. And of course, at the same time, you stay mindful. So you're working not only on deepening the breath, opening spaces that have been closed off, but you're also working with focus. So it's a physical practice, but it's also a mental practice. Give you about 1 more minute. And then after that minute, if you feel like you're getting into a good spot and you do want to keep practicing this technique, then you have that option to do that, of course. And if you think, no, I'm practiced this enough today, and then you'll release the technique and you'll just breathe in and out again through your nose. That minute has gone by again. If you want to keep practicing, then don't feel constrained by time at all. Um, but now's a good opportunity for you to just relax, to stay as long as you like in the space that you're in, to give yourself some gratitude and appreciation for everything that you did today, for your mind to show up and your body to show up, and you make the decision to do something that fills up your cup because that's really important. Filling up your cup, even if you just put a couple drops in, doesn't have to overflow, just put some drops in, and you'll find that you feel better. So giving yourself that appreciation and gratitude for doing that today. And always remember that you are really loved.